Mistake 1. Mistake 2. Mistake 3. Mistake 4. She's an adult. She's sound of mind. We thought she would be safe. I'm going to Hawaii and I'll let you know when I get there. She was ranting to herself. Her behaviour was erratic. Mistake, she is acting crazy. Mistake talking 2, gibberish. Mistake, she's sharp 3 as a razor. Mistake 4. I thought she was very bizarre. Mistake 1. Find me 2. The footage. Mistake, or I will raise all kinds of hell. 4. She's an adult. She's sound of mind. We thought she would be safe. Mistake 1. Mistake 2. Mistake 3. Mistake 4. Welcome to Extraordinary Stories podcast. Hey, how are you? Are you well? Are you good? I am. Alright, let's just start by saying thank you to everyone who has been in touch with me recently. This is just a big thank you really for anyone who sends me brilliant emails. I get such good things. I get such brilliant emails. I get voice notes. I get pictures sent to me. I get, everything. You never fail to disappoint me in a week with the amount of wonderful stuff that you send me. So please, keep sending me things. Keep sending me stories. Keep sending me your random thoughts, your musings, your drawings, your whatever. Just keep sending it. Alright, this story. Well, I've always been fascinated with this story, and it's been on a list of stories that I've wanted to tell for a long, long time, and I finally got to the point where I was like, yes, this is the one. I'm going to do this story for the next episode. I really am fascinated by it because it's strange. It leaves me a bit annoyed and angry, as I'm sure it will you. But yeah, there's just lots to sort of unpick in this story. So, are you ready? Okay, let's go. Alright, we're starting in September 2009 and we are in Malibu. Whoop, whoop, Malibu. Never been to Malibu, but I'm sure it's lovely. So Malibu, if you don't know, but I'm sure you will, is in California. It's where they make Malibu Barbie. So, we have a restaurant in Malibu and it's called Jeffrey's. I think it's called Jeffrey's. It could be called Joffrey's, but I think that's just the posh way of saying it. I think it's just called Jeffrey's. So that's what we're just going to call it. Okay? So this restaurant, let me describe it. So in Malibu, in the bit where this restaurant is, there's a whole a big, huge, massive row of restaurants, and they sit on the beachfront. So it's your, if you were to sum up, I suppose, what you thought Malibu might look like, this restaurant is almost exactly the picture you would have. So it's one of these restaurants that sits near the beach. There's like an outdoor area to dine, lots of lovely canopies, and it's quite a fancy Nancy kind of place. Expensive. I mean, really, really nice. When I looked at the images of it, I was like, I would love to be dining there. It's a really, really nice restaurant. So Jeffries. So in 2009, it's September, and a young woman pulls in to the car park of Jeffries, and she is awaiting the valet to come and park her car. Now, this is the first instance in the story where we will meet someone who's able to describe this young woman's behaviour. The valet will describe her as erratic. What happens is she pulls in to the car park and she's waiting, and in the time that she's waiting, she gets out of her own car and she ends up sitting in the valet's car. Now, she doesn't know it's the valet's car. She just picks a random car to sit in. So here she is. She's sitting in someone else's car. The valet walks over. It's his car. And he says, sorry, what's going on here? Why are you sitting in my car? And she replies, it's subliminal. So, it's the first clue that something is not right. That's not really an answer to the question, but okay, she's saying it's subliminal. The valet says, well, are you here to dine? Are you here? What's the reason for your visit? And she says, I'm here to avenge the death of Michael Jackson. The valet says, okay, do you want me to park your car and you can go inside? She says yes. Then she asks, is Vanessa here? And the valet says, Vanessa, is that someone who works here? Is that one of the waiting staff? And the girl says, it doesn't matter, just look out for the girl with tattoos. So straight away what this valet does is, he goes to the waiting staff and he says, look, there's a girl that's just arrived. She's behaving very erratically. I can't really get much sense out of her, but she's coming into the restaurant to eat. So they say, okay, well, we'll keep an eye on her. So the girl sits down at a table, and the second person that she interacts with is a waiter. Now the waiter is struggling to take her order because he says he can't get much sense out of her. She appears to be talking gibberish. She's just talking nonsense, and he's going, I can't follow what she's talking about. Eventually, he can get an order out of her, and she orders a steak dinner and a cocktail. So when her food is brought out to her table, she's not sitting at her table. Instead, what she's done is she's joined another table of complete strangers who she doesn't know, and they're going, who is this that's just joined our table? We don't know. This girl, she's just randomly walked up, sat down and started talking to us. Now they will later say she was talking very, and this is their words, out of the box. So when I dug a little bit deeper into what their out of the box comment meant, they were basically saying that she was like not, she wasn't following the pattern of conversation that they were having. She kept going off on tangents about Michael Jackson. She kept going off on tangents about being a young woman, and they just couldn't quite keep up with what she was talking about. Other diners who witnessed her on that evening will say she seemed to be on edge. She was sometimes ranting to other people, sometimes she was ranting to herself. So, her food's now here, and what she does is she goes back to the table on her own. She sits, she eats her steak dinner, she drinks her cocktail, and as that table of strangers that she had joined earlier get up to leave, she shouts at them across the restaurant, "I'm going to Hawaii, and I'll let you know when I get there." And they're like, who is this? Who is this woman? What's she going on? Why is she talking to us like she knows us? So, staff by this point are a bit on edge with her behaviour and they just sort of want her out. By this point, the manager is alerted to the fact that there's someone in the restaurant, and don't forget, this is posh Jeffrey's restaurant. She needs to go. This is not right. This behaviour, don't like it. So they bring her a bill. Her bill arrives and it's for $89.21. And when the bill arrives, she says, "I can't pay this. I don't have the money to pay." So the waiter says, "Okay, well, I'll go and I'll get the manager and we'll sort this out." So the manager comes over. He says, "What's the problem here?" And she says, "I've explained it to the waiter. I don't have the money. I can't pay for this meal." Let's pause there. Let's pause and we're going to pick back up at that moment once I've told you just a little bit more about who this person is. Who is this woman? Well, she is Mitrice Richardson. She is a 24-year-old black American woman. Mitrice was born in 1985 to parents Latisse and Michael in California. Now, I've never seen this ever written down anywhere. Maybe I'm just making assumptions. So her name is Mitrice, but her parents' name, so her mum's Latisse and her dad is Michael. I think her name maybe comes from a combination of the two of them. I could be making this up. I could be talking the biggest load of bollocks, but I don't think I am, if you think about it. Latisse and Michael, and then the daughter is called Mitrice. Yeah, I think that's where it comes from. Anyway, so Mitrice, she had grown up in California. She had attended high school and then gone on to college. She was a very, very intelligent young lady. She was described as being sharp as a razor. She'd actually just completed her honours degree in psychology. So she hadn't long graduated, actually, and what she was hoping is that she would be able to return to her studies and get her graduate degree. Now, it's important to say that we find her in Malibu because this is an area she doesn't really know that well. She doesn't really know this area, so she knows the sort of East LA, East California type areas. She knows the South a little bit, but she's never really spent a great deal of time in Malibu. And she's certainly, I don't think, ever been to Jeffrey's before. This isn't a restaurant that she's used to rocking up at. So let's look just a tiny bit closer at Mitrice's life. Now, there is no escaping this fact, and when you do any kind of research on her, you'll find this straight away. Mitrice was absolutely stunning. Absolutely gorge arse. I mean, absolutely beautiful. When you see her mum, her mum must be like in her like 50s. Swear to God, she looks like she's in her 30s. Mitrice has been passed down the gorgeous genes. She's absolutely stunning. And, well, she knows how to use her stunningness. So, to help her through college when she's studying for her psychology degree, she works in a go-go bar. She works as a go-go dancer. Now, not a go-go dancer for men. Not one of those sleazy men's get your boobs out bar. No. She works, well, it's a similar thing. It is get your boobs out. But it's for women. She works in a lesbian bar. And that's because Mitrice was gay. And she'd been in a 2-year relationship with a woman called Tessa Moon. Don't know if that's her real name. I think it might be, but Tessa Moon sounds a bit sounds a bit stripper or a bit porn star, doesn't it? Tessa Moon. I don't know. Anyway, in her life, Mitrice had competed in beauty pageants. She'd occasionally modelled. She was photographed at the Playboy's Hot Summer Nights party. Yes. I don't think that's a party I'm going to be getting invited to anytime soon, although I'd love to go. If I got an invite to that, I'd be like, yes, thank you, I'll be there. So in her domestic life, Mitrice lived with her great-grandmother, Mildred. Her parents were separated, and although Mitrice was close to both her mum and her dad, it just suited her life better to live with her great-grandmother, Mildred. Now, her mum and dad, just quickly, they're really interesting figures in themselves. So her mother, who will play a big part in the story, her mother, Latisse, was this sort of young, beautiful, social butterfly. She was just full of energy, she was full of life. And at high school, she'd met Mitrice's dad, Michael. They started dating really, really young. He was really, really into music. Now, both Mitrice's parents came from quite difficult backgrounds. So as soon as they possibly could, they got married and they escaped the life that they were in, and they moved out and they started their own life, and they had Mitrice was their daughter. They were something of a bit of a, I don't want to say they were a wild couple, but I think they were known for going out and partying and having a lot of fun. They loved being social. They had nicknames for each other. They called each other Romeo and Juliet, and they got these nicknames tattooed on their arms for each other. Mitrice's dad, he had he bought a red leather jacket, like the one that Michael Jackson wears. I can't remember what video that's in. Is it Thriller? I can't remember. That sort of really famous red leather jacket that he wears. Anyway, he had bought this jacket, and he was known for doing his Michael Jackson routines. So he'd pull out a bit of Billie Jean, bit of Beat It, bit of Thriller. So they were these really social, exuberant kind of people. Now, Mitrice, as a child, she was called a princess, a show-off. People talk about her like this, but they talk sort of affectionately about her. They'll say, she was a complete princess. She loved attention. She absolutely adored all eyes on her. So, there's a story about once when she was going to collect an award at school. One of these award ceremonies at the end of the year. Oh, best student, best whatever, highest achiever, whatever. Everyone else is going up and they're one by one just collecting their certificate. Oh, the parents are giving a little round of applause, thanks very much, and off they go. But when Mitrice gets to the stage, she decides she's not going to take the certificate at first. Instead, she's going to break into a dance routine, and she starts doing the Running Man. At which point the parents go nuts because they fucking love it. She's hilarious. She's this kind of outgoing, brilliant child, and they're all like, oh, Mitrice is such a laugh. She's so funny. She loved to perform. She really loved being the centre of attention. Now, her mum and dad's marriage, it didn't last terribly long, and that's why Mitrice has ended up living with her great-grandmother. But for Mitrice, currently sitting in that restaurant, How did her life end up at this moment? Like, what's going on with her currently? Well, things are not great for her at the moment. She has spent the last 5 days living in her car. Now, she's not homeless. Not homeless by any means. She also has money. This is the thing. Mitrice was very good with money. So, money she made from go-go dancing, all of her tips, all of that was all saved away in the bank. So this sort of not being able to pay $89 for your meal doesn't really make much sense because she does have money. But friends and family, they will say sometimes she would just do odd things like this. She would just go a bit weird. Things like living in her car weren't particularly new to her family because she just sometimes did strange things. They described that often she would just go off grid. For a few days here and there, she would just disappear and you didn't know where she was and she wouldn't make contact. What we also need to know here is that Mitrice could sometimes go into what her family describe as depressive periods. She could really go into herself and become very, very hard to access. And it's perfectly possible that this moment in September 2009, she was going through one of those periods, so living in her car, cutting herself off from talking to people. She was possibly going through one of those depressive periods. So with all of that information, now that we've got a clearer picture of Mitrice, let's go back to Jeffrey's restaurant on that evening. The manager says to her, "How do you intend to pay?" Mitrice says something along the lines of, "I'm from Mars, I don't need to pay." The manager says, "I'm sorry, but you do. You do need to pay." She offers sex in exchange for payment of the bill, and the manager says, "No." I mean, the amount of times I've tried that, it just doesn't work. I'm kidding. Or am I? He wants to call the police, and Mitrice says, "Look, first of all, can you just let me call my great-grandmother Mildred?" So, Mildred gets a phone call. The manager says, "Look, I've got your great-granddaughter here. She can't pay the bill. Can you pay it?" Mildred says, "Yes, I can. Here is my credit card number. I'll pay for it." But then the manager says, but we need an actual physical signature." I mean, it's 2009. Come on. So that doesn't work. And the manager says, "Well, do you have parents nearby who could come and pay the bill?" And Mitrice says, "I don't have any parents," which we know is not true. The manager, who to this day can't even speak about this incident because it weighs so heavily on his soul. He has had hours of therapy to deal with this moment, to deal with his actions. He calls the police. And this, in the story of Mitrice Richardson, is mistake number 1. Mistake 1. Mistake 2. Mistake 3. Mistake 4. He calls police and he says, "I have a young woman here. She's acting crazy and she can't pay her bill." Mitrice is like, "Is there no way we can just sort this out? Can we not just do something?" And the manager says, "No, it's too late. I've called the police." So police get there, and when they speak to her, she's a little bit incoherent. They can't get a lot of sense out of her, and they jump to the immediate conclusions of she's drunk, or she's on drugs, or she's just crazy, basically. Now, I'm just going to put a little bit of context in here because I do think this is important. As I said, Jeffrey's, it's in Malibu, it's a swanky, fanky, danky kind of restaurant. Police in that area, there's a lot of like celebrities live in that area. You know, this is the, do you ever remember, Reese Witherspoon got picked up by police for, I think it was she either drunk driving or was she speeding or something. It's the really terrible footage where they get her out of the car and she says, "Do you not know who I am?" I bloody love Reese Witherspoon. I think I just love her because Legally Blonde is the greatest piece of cinema that's ever been made. But it's that kind of place. Do you know what I mean? So they're not necessarily used to your sort of non-Malibu crowd being weird in a restaurant. So police are a bit like, right, what the hell do we do here? So they search her car, and in her car they find evidence that yes, she's been living in the car for a few days. So, you know, they find dirty clothing, they find, you know, just evidence basically that someone's been in this car for a long time. They find empty bottles of vodka, empty bottles of tequila, and the tiniest, and I mean tiniest, amount of marijuana. So now they're thinking, right, okay, well, she's definitely under the influence of something. So they give her a field sobriety test. So the field sobriety test is the old, can you walk in a straight line? Can you stand on one leg? You know, put your finger on your nose, your finger in your ear, balance, all that kind of stuff. You know those tests that they do. I'm always dubious about those. Maybe I'm on my own here, but I think those are, I mean, I know they've been scientifically proven, and they actually have. Like, scientists have gone, yes, these work to determine whether or not a person is sober. You know, so you'll have seen it a million times. Pull someone out of a car. Can you walk in a straight line? No, you can't. Right, you're drunk. Okay, so that's those tests. But here's where my here's where my doubts in these tests arrive. Is that, think about it yourself, right? When you're drunk, right? There's certain things you can't do, but there's certain things you can do, right? So like maybe if I was really drunk, I couldn't walk in a straight line. Maybe I couldn't. Maybe I would have difficulty with the old finger on the nose, balancing, pointing, eyes following thing. Okay, maybe that's just something I would struggle with. But there's like other parts to this test which I think are just odd. It's things like, can you recite the alphabet? Well, did we not all learn the alphabet when we were 5? So it's in us. We know what the alphabet is. I think the point I'm trying to make is, when you're drunk, yes, some of those motor skills might not be brilliant, but there's also things that we can all do when you're drunk. I mean, I could be pulled out of a car and said, "Can you walk in a straight line?" I might not be able to do it, but I could rap you the entire "I'm Slim Shady, yes, I'm the real Shady, all you other Slim Shadys are just imitating" from start to finish without missing a word. I could literally give you a masterclass in the Vogue choreography and not miss a step, no matter how drunk I was. So, yeah, I'm a bit dubious about these field sobriety tests. However, what police determine is that Mitrice is 100% sober. Completely sober. And so, this is a major turning point here, because police have 2 options. Option 1 is this. They could take Mitrice to a nearby mental health facility where for 72 hours she could be supervised. A doctor could have a conversation with her and assess the situation. Or they can arrest her for not paying the bill and for having that tiny amount of marijuana. The main officer on the scene, he decides that option 1, the taking her to the facility, it's just too much paperwork. Too much paperwork. How fucking ridiculous is that? He says, it's such a hassle to get her into this facility and get a doctor to speak to her. It's just way easier if we just arrest her. And that's what they do. They arrest Mitrice and they take her to the nearby police station. Her car is impounded. It gets taken out of the car park in Jeffrey's restaurant. Now, this means at this moment, with her car impounded, she has no phone, no money, and of course, no car. So she's taken to the police station for the night. By the time that she gets to the police station, her great-grandmother Mildred, who'd been on the phone earlier on, has called now all of the family and alerted them all that a situation is happening. So Mitrice's mother, Lettice, gets on the case. She's like, what is going on here? I don't understand this. She's going, why is Mitrice in this Malibu area? I have no idea. She's also concerned because she's thinking she doesn't know this area very well. But she's also thinking, well, she's been a bit off-grid for the past few days, so I don't really know what's going on with her. Anyway, what Lettice does is she calls the police station and she says, hi, my daughter was brought in tonight and I just have to say this is completely out of the ordinary. I don't understand what's happening here, but I can come and I can pick her up. But if you're going to keep her overnight and she's going to be seen by a judge in the morning and either given a fine or a slap in the wrists, then I'll come and I'll get her tomorrow morning. This is a really key moment in the story, and once you finish listening to this episode, you can go onto YouTube and you can actually find the moment that this conversation happened. You can hear Lettice phoning the police station. She very clearly says, if you're going to let her out tonight, let me know and I will come right now and I'll collect her. But if you're going to keep her until tomorrow morning, that's fine. I'll be there first thing to get her. And the police officer at the station, he says, no, we'll keep her till tomorrow morning. And Lettice says, okay, that's fine, as long as you don't release her tonight, because she has no car, she has no money, she has no phone, and I don't really want her in an area where she doesn't know, wandering around. So please just assure me that you're going to keep her all night long. And police officer says, yes, definitely. So Mitrice is booked for not paying her bill and for the tiny amount of marijuana. By this time, it's 11 p.m. at night, so that's about 3 hours after this whole incident happened in the restaurant. The following morning arrives, and Lettice gets to the police station to collect her daughter. She's thinking, right, I'm going to sort this out, I'm going to come in, I'm going to fix this situation. So she comes in and she says, hi, I'm Lettice Richardson. I'm here to pick up my daughter. You picked her up last night. The police officer at the desk looks confused. Now, because it's the morning, there's been a changeover of staff. So this staff member says, okay, give me a minute and I'll just go and check. This staff member comes back and says, she's not here. And Lettice says, what the fuck do you mean she's not here? I called last night and asked if you were keeping her until the morning, and I was told yes. The police officer on the desk says, oh, we let her go at 12:15 a.m. last night. Can you imagine how Latisse felt in that moment? She's absolutely going nuts. She keeps repeating, I asked you not to let her go. I said I would come and collect her. Why have you let her go after midnight in this area? Why have you done that? So just to be really clear about this, where this police station is miles away from the busy bit of Malibu. We're talking a good 15 miles out of Malibu. We're talking about remote police station. This is like near the Santa Monica Mountains. It's the wilderness we're talking about here. And so Latisse is going, well, where would she have gone? Like, what can she have done? She left here with nothing but the clothes on her back. So, where would she be? What do I do? So she's quite a together woman, Latisse. She's quite pragmatic, you know, she's very sort of, she's angry, but she's also wanting a solution. So she says, like, what can I do? And police say, well, you could wait a couple of hours, see if she shows up, see if she makes contact with someone, which she probably will, and then the whole thing will be fine. So that's exactly what Latisse does. She waits 2 hours and nothing. She goes back to police and she says, right, it's been 2 hours, what do I do now? And they say, well, if you wait a full 24 hours, we can report her as a missing person. I mean, this is insane because police have created this situation and now they're laying down all these rules about you have to wait 24 hours, etc. What Latisse is trying to impress upon the police is that this area is basically just vast mountain areas, and if Matrice was to get anywhere, she would have had to walk 15 miles just to reach even a bit of busyness, a bit of, like, I don't know, a 24-hour cafe or a shop or something, anything. But you let her out at midnight and she's wandered, and now you're telling me I have to wait to fucking report her as a missing person. Police don't really seem that concerned. And it all gets a bit hazy. The police are a bit sketchy about why she was let go. Nobody can really give a very, very clear answer on why she was let out. Latisse will say things like, so she was acting bizarre in the restaurant and you picked her up and you brought her here. She must have still been acting quite strangely, but you thought it was okay to let her go. And they say, she's an adult. She seemed sound of mind. We thought she would be fine. So this is a horrific, horrible time for the family. And so they begin a search for Matrice. Police are not interested in a search at this moment. They're being so evasive about the whole thing. They're just not really that arsed by it. Now, a call comes in to the police station, and it's from a man who lives about maybe 6 miles away from where the police station is, and he's calling to report that someone was in his backyard last night and was behaving very strangely. A young black woman in her mid-20s was asleep in his backyard. And when the man approached her, she was lying on the grass. He asks if she's okay, and she says, I'm just resting. So police get this call and they think, I wonder if that was her. I wonder if that was Matrice. Now this is where we get into like mixed reports. And if you know this story, and I know that some of you will know there are all manner of conspiracy theories around it. Witnesses will say that they saw Matrice, or someone matching her description, going in to this man's house Others will say they saw her leaving this man's house. Who is this man? Well, he is Bill Smith. Bill Smith is a former TV news anchor. Remember I said this is a place where celebrities live. This is the kind of place a TV news anchor would be able to afford a house. So whether she went into Bill's house or she was leaving Bill's house, it's never been verified. Another neighbour close by calls police to say, I can hear a female screaming in the neighbourhood. Screaming really loudly. I don't know where it's coming from. I'm not entirely sure of the location, but I can just hear really loud screaming. Police come out, they do a check, but the screaming has stopped. They can't hear it anymore. A third witness comes forward to say that they saw a figure matching the description of Mitrice wandering into the Santa Monica Hills at 5 a.m. in the morning. So her family, her girlfriend, they are frantic at this point. They're trying as much as possible to get a search going for Mitrice. But police are again reluctant to engage. And here is mistake number 3. It takes 5 months, 5 bloody months, for police to actually do anything and properly begin a search. What is discovered in the 5 months before police start their search is, well, there's a bit more digging into Mitrice's recent behaviour, and a few different things come to light. And, well, one of the things that's discovered is that her Facebook posts of late had been very peculiar. She was, sort of kind of along the lines of some of the stuff that she was saying in the restaurant. There was a few about avenging Michael Jackson's death. There was a lot about just sort of feeling very vulnerable as a young black woman. She was going off on tangents and people were like, what is she even talking about? Again, Mars made an appearance about being from Mars. Also in that time, one of the fellow go-go dancers from the place that Mitrice worked will come forward and say that Mitrice was actually on the verge of stalking her at that point, and she was a little bit afraid. There's odd things like she was leaving notes in family members' homes that said things like, there is nothing like a scorned black woman. These were all coming out of the blue. These were all like weird things that nobody knew what they meant, or, yeah. There were journals found in her car. Mitrice loved to keep a journal and she would write in it as often as possible. And again, a lot of her journal entries are kind of just about feeling like a victim, feeling like the world wasn't understanding her. So all of this gets kind of unearthed, really, before police begin their big actual search. So by now, she is officially reported as a missing person, and there's no real help in the search thus far, before police will do anything. Her mother goes back to police and she says, right, I want to see the footage of the night that she was brought into the police station. And police say, oh, we can't find that footage. We don't know where it is. Strangely, we can find all the other nights around it. We can find tapes that go back for months. We just can't seem to find that particular evening. And Latisse says this. This is not good enough. Find me the footage of her on that evening that she was here, or I will raise all kinds of hell. Mysteriously, the footage suddenly appears. Police can find it. So Lettice and the family, they watch that evening, and it's really disturbing. After her arrest at Jeffrey's, it shows her coming into the police station, and she's in a really visible state of distress. She's agitated. She's like grabbing at things on the desk, and then sometimes she's grabbing at invisible things. She's talking to herself. She's ranting. They put her in a cell, and on the cell door there's some metal grates, and it's just her like rattling the metal grate. Now, mental health experts have all watched this footage, and they all agree one thing. She needed sectioned at that moment. She didn't need to be in a police cell. She needed mental health professionals to step in and help her. But hey, let's remember what the police said. She's an adult. She seemed sound of mind. Fuck off. So Lettice is now, I love this, she's now up in the face of police, and she's like, let's start telling the truth. Let's be honest here. How on earth could you have let my daughter go? Look at her. Look at her in this footage. How do you possibly think she was okay? And they've got no answer. On that video footage, so there's like a moment where there's 4 separate phone calls that Mitrice made from the police station. To who? No one knows. Because when Lettice says, right, can I see the phone records? You must keep outgoing phone records, so you must know who she was calling. They go, oh, sorry, we suddenly can't find the phone records from that particular evening. What? You can't find them from just that particular evening. So no one knows who Mitrice called 4 times in that evening. So Lettice is getting seriously fucked off now by being passed about from person to person and not getting any straight answers. And she wants the man in charge. She wants the guy in charge of the police station. So she gets him and she says, look, here's the situation. Explain it to me. Tell me what happened. And he says, yeah, I was actually here on the evening that she was brought in. But, he says, I took nothing to do with the nonsense. What nonsense is that? What's he referring to? What's he talking about? I took nothing to do with the nonsense. Right, something happened in that police station, and he is pretending he doesn't know what that was. He's the guy who authorised her release at 12:30 a.m. in the morning, knowing that she'd no phone, no car, and no money. But he's still pretending he has no real knowledge of it. Liar, liar, balls on fire. You are just lying. Everybody in this story is just lying their arses off. Now, there is mounting public pressure, and this will always happen, and it's a good thing. I think it's a great thing to happen. By now, the story of the girl who turned up at the restaurant, acted a bit weirdly, was let go by police, has now made its way to the news. And so what can police do? Well, eyebrows are being raised, people are pointing fingers and saying they have not dealt with this situation very well at all. So what they do is they organise the biggest search that has ever happened out of that police station in that area. 500 police officers begin a search of the mountain areas and the surrounding areas to find Mitrice. At the end of that search, they don't find anything. No sign of Mitrice anywhere. But the family, well, they are not going to give up. 3 months after that massive search happens, 2 park rangers are walking in the area near the police station, a few miles from it, only 5-6 miles, and they discover a body. The body is lying at the bottom of some rocks. It's the body of a young black woman, and she's dead. Her bra and her jeans have been taken off and are lying 100 metres away from her body. Some of her bones are missing. So her finger bones are missing, and her throat bones and a part of her neck has been removed. Police arrive on the scene. They check around the scene. Now, the police that arrive are some of the same officers who were involved in her initial arrest. Police officers are explicitly told this: leave the body where it is, and a coroner will be there soon to examine it and determine a cause of death. So we all heard that, didn't we? Loud and bloody clear. Leave the body where it is, a coroner is on his way. Half an hour after the body is discovered, police have it airlifted out of the site and taken to a morgue. Police officers have completely disregarded what they've been told to do. So the coroner arrives and there is no body to examine. It's in the bloody morgue. The family are sent to the morgue to identify it, and it is, of course, the body of Mitrice. But why was she moved? Why? I mean, her parents are going insane. Insane at this point. They've discovered that police were told not to move her body, and yet she was airlifted out of there. Why? So now detectives arrive at the site. They find the clothing that's been scattered, but they find very, very little else. The coroner in this case is furious, absolutely furious. He says, basically, you have disturbed the body so much, I can't possibly figure anything out here. I can't figure anything out. And now we get to mistake 4. And whether this is a mistake or this is a part of a cover-up, who knows? No rape tests are done on Mitrice's body. No toxicology tests are done to determine were there drugs in her body. Nothing. None of these tests are carried out. The things that you would normally do when you find a body. Why? Well, somebody somewhere is stopping these tests being done. So for the police, well, this is over. They found the body. The coroner can't determine how she died. So it's over. Or is it? No, in the eyes of so many people, no, it's not over. They also discover, and this is one of the weirder bits of this story, they discover that not far from where Matrice's body had been discovered, there is a mural that has been painted on a wall, and it's been fairly freshly painted. In fact, the paint is still not dry, and it shows the figure of a black woman in a very sexually graphic position. And the woman in the mural looks very like Matrice. So now this just adds another element of what? Why is there a mural of a black woman in a sexual position found not that far from where Matrice's dead body was discovered? Now, I just want to make this clear. I'm not anti-police. I'm not. I think police do a great job. But there is something happening here. Something is going on. Something happened that night in the police station, and it's being covered up. The following few days, weeks, months, they are torture for the family, for her girlfriend. They go and they visit the part of the mountain where her body was found, and her mum, I mean, this is terrible. Her mum actually finds a finger bone. She finds a finger bone belonging to Matrice that the police had just never picked up. Over the next few days, they discover bits of bones from her body that, again, police had just never quite collected. Now, I wonder if you're maybe thinking what I was thinking, which is animals. Did animals attack her body? Is that why we've got bits of bones lying all over the place? Well, the thing is, her body showed no signs at all of any sort of animal bites. And why would an animal take your throat and your neck and your fingers? Those are odd areas for an animal to just specifically attack. In the next few months, her family will go through all sorts of hell trying to challenge the police, claiming that something happened and that there's a cover-up. They'll learn the very, very hard lesson that you can't really penetrate the police. It's almost impossible. The coroner just has to say it's undetermined how she died. There can never be for the family a conclusive way to say this is how she died. So what Lettice does is she tries to fight it, and initially she has actually some success. She goes to court and she gets compensation for the inept handling by police. And that's fine, but I mean, money's not really going to solve the situation here. It's not money she's looking for answers. Now, when she tries to take it just a little bit higher, she's going to discover that there is a limit to what you can do here. She gets turned away by almost every lawyer, every legal proceeding. They just don't really want to touch this in case the police have done something wrong here. Nobody wants to be the lawyer in a case where you're unearthing corrupt police procedures. So Matrice's funeral comes and goes. And whilst, the family are not getting any legal help, there is public support. The public are demanding answers. There's a couple of protests against the police. And there's demands by the public for the truth and what really happened. The manager of Jeffries, who, remember I said earlier on, can, to this day, barely speak about the incident, he starts to receive death threats. There's a huge protest outside of Jeffries restaurant in Malibu with people carrying signs that say, "Jeffries kills black women." Latisse and the family, they demand that the footage of Mitrice in the police station acting erratically be made public. They want the public to see this. They want the public to see this so that they can say, this is how she was acting, but police said she was fine. The public, and I will say the black community, are protesting heavily. And it's all coming down to the same question. How did we get from an unpaid steak dinner to a body lying in the mountains with its bones ripped out? Now, this happened 11 years ago, and the story of Mitrice Richardson is still the most relevant stories about mistreatment and about not knowing how to deal with mental health. Mitrice's family continue to fight the fight and ask for answers. But sadly, in the death of Mitrice Richardson, those answers might never come. And so ends the story. Now, if you go out and you do any kind of research yourself, if you look for this story, you will go down the rabbit hole of so many conspiracy theories. Oh my God, they're far-reaching. There's conspiracy theories that will say things like she was assaulted by police officers that evening in the police station and they had to cover it up. So what they did was they actually killed her and they put her in a really hard place to find in the mountains, is one theory. The throat bones being missing, people will say she was actually choked to death in the police station and that's why her throat bones were removed. Other people will say the TV news guy who, said, "Oh, there's a woman in my house," actually was paid to do that. And in fact, there was never a sighting of her. Police had already done their work. They'd already disposed of the body. And that this was all just made up. And the man who called to say, "Oh, I can hear a female screaming in the area," again, was a fake. But you have to just make your own way through these conspiracy theories and figure out what you think. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed that story. Thank you for your great suggestions. They've been really lovely. Brilliant suggestions of how to end the podcast. I've still not settled on anything. I do enjoy the idea of a small catchphrase to end the episode, but I haven't quite found the right one yet. So for just now, all I'll say is, if you want to get in touch, please do join the Facebook group. It's wonderful. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram. You can support me on Patreon. You can support the podcast by actually leaving me a review on iTunes or anywhere that you listen to the podcast. All of that would be very, very welcomed. Thank you. Okay. Goodbye.
It didn't affect me really one way or the other. I would imagine from the look on his face, let's get it on, let's do it, let's get it over. Let's get it on, let's do it, let's get it over.